Imagine being alone, lost in a vast desert. The scorching sun burns your skin, and the wind blows hard, stirring up sand around you. All you can hear is the sound of your own breathing. But then, something happens. A voice, a whisper out of nowhere. You turn, look around, but there's no one there. Have you ever experienced this? A sensation, an inexplicable intuition, as if something or someone is trying to tell you something? What if I told you that this experience might not be just imagination? Science is discovering that spirituality is not just a matter of belief, but something that can be measured. Scholars have found a surprising link between the human brain and spiritual experience. There is something within us, a deep connection that may be allowing us to hear the voice of God. But what does this connection really mean? Is there a specific part of our brain that connects us to the divine? If God speaks to us, why can't we always hear? And most importantly, can we learn to listen better? Get ready for a fascinating journey where neuroscience and faith meet. We'll explore how the brain works, discover how our thoughts are shaped, and perhaps find answers that could change your life forever. For centuries, faith was seen as an unattainable mystery, an exclusively spiritual experience. But from the 20th century, with the advancement of neuroscience, a new perspective began to emerge. In 1997, neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Newberg of the University of Pennsylvania began groundbreaking studies into the impact of religious practices on the human brain. Using neuroimaging techniques, he observed that during prayer and meditation, specific areas of the brain, such as the prefrontal cortex and the loboparietal, showed intense activity. These regions of the brain are responsible for decision-making, self-control, and self-awareness. When stimulated through spiritual practices, they not only promote a sense of peace, but also reinforce emotional resilience and mental clarity. Studies conducted in 2016 revealed that regular meditation can increase the density of gray matter, especially in the prefrontal cortex, strengthening skills such as empathy, compassion, and self-understanding. But what do these studies really mean? They suggest that the human brain is shaped by spiritual practice, creating a neural pathway that facilitates experiences of peace, purpose, and connection to something greater. This phenomenon is known as spiritual neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and strengthen based on our repeated actions and thoughts. When we engage in practices like prayer, reading sacred texts, or the simple act of reflecting on our morality, we are literally training our brain to align with higher principles. Just like muscles that strengthen with exercise, the spiritual brain develops with constant practice, promoting a deeper and more meaningful connection with the divine. We have all faced moments of internal conflict. Have you ever felt your heart saying one thing and your mind insisting on another? This struggle is not just an emotional dilemma, it has deep roots within the human brain. At the heart of this conflict is the limbic system, the part of the brain that governs our most primitive emotions: fear, anger, desire, and euphoria. It's what triggers quick and automatic impulses, often before we even have time to think. When you feel anger and respond without thinking, or act on impulse and later regret it, it is your limbic system that is in control. But there is an opposing force within you, one that can balance that energy and bring clarity to your decisions. If the limbic system is the fire of emotions, the prefrontal cortex, it is water that balances and brings control. This region of the brain is responsible for conscious decision-making, reasoning, and self-control. Research shows that people who regularly practice meditation, prayer, or any form of contemplation tend to develop a stronger prefrontal cortex. This means a greater ability to resist negative impulses, make wiser decisions, and live more balanced lives. In the 2011 study, Researchers at Harvard University found that only 8 weeks of contemplative practices were enough to physically alter the brain, increasing the density of gray matter in the prefrontal cortex. But what if this ability to strengthen the brain was actually a divine gift, a bridge between science and spirituality that allows us to access a higher state of consciousness? Imagine that your brain is like a vast field. With every thought, with every choice, you are carving out a path. The further you travel that path, the stronger and more defined it becomes. But what if you wanted to change direction? Science shows us that this change is not only possible, but is an essential characteristic of the human brain. This phenomenon is known as neuroplasticity, the brain's incredible ability to create and modify neural connections over time. Just as a pianist can train his fingers to move with agility and precision, we can reprogram our thoughts and emotions through the repetition of spiritual habits and practices. But how does this work in practice? Studies from the University of Wisconsin have shown that monks who practice daily meditation experience intense activity in the frontal lobe, region of the brain, associated with critical thinking and empathy. The more we cultivate states of peace and reflection, the more these areas strengthen, making spiritual connection a natural state of mind. Engaging in practices like prayer, reading sacred texts, or moments of daily gratitude are not just acts of faith. They are neurological exercises that shape your perception of the world. Each time you choose a positive thought over a negative one, each time you practice forgiveness instead of resentment, you are strengthening the neural pathways that make these behaviors easier in the future. Throughout your life, you have been shaped by the experiences, the thoughts you have cultivated, and the beliefs you have chosen to nurture. But the most fascinating thing about this is that this construction is not finished. You have the power to decide how your mind will be shaped from now on. Every thought you repeat, every action you take, strengthens certain neural pathways. You are, consciously or not, programming your mind to react to the world in a specific way. Now imagine, if your mind can be trained to any pattern, what kind of life are you building? Are you conditioning yourself for fear, for insecurity, for doubt? Or are you strengthening your mind for faith, for gratitude, for clarity? Neuroscience proves that practices such as gratitude, forgiveness, and daily contemplation strengthen the areas of the brain associated with happiness and inner peace. But this doesn't happen by chance. It happens by choice. If there is a divine gift given to us, it is free will, the freedom to think, to change, to rebuild ourselves. God does not force his presence, but he is always waiting for an invitation, and that invitation does not start outside of you. It starts inside your mind, in the way you decide to see the world, in what you choose to believe and strengthen in your own consciousness. Today, you have a choice. You can continue living as you always have, reacting automatically to the world around you. Or you can decide that from now on, every thought and every action will be conscious steps toward a stronger, clearer mind, more connected to something greater. Or has God always been talking to you and you just needed to learn to listen?